our podcast, where today we're focusing on the crucial topic of tackling water efficiency. I'm Anna Scothan, and this episode supports the National Home Improvement Council's Doorstep Digests. The NHIC created these informative guides to help tradespeople and homeowners make well-informed decisions about various aspects of home improvement. Each digest focuses on specific topics and provides insights, tips, and practical advice on improving water efficiency and energy efficiency, safety, and overall home performance. I'm pleased that Tom Reynolds, Chief Executive of the Bathroom Manufacturers Association, is joining me today. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, Anna.
And so, Tom, let's kick off by you giving us some insight into the current trends and statistics around bathroom water use.
Yeah, so bathroom water use is a really important way that we can reduce our overall demand on the domestic water supply. So about 60% of the water that we use in the home is used in the bathroom. Now, why is this important? It's kind of counterintuitive. We think we live in Britain, it's got grey skies, there's loads of rain. I know recent statistics show that this has been the wettest 18 months in recorded history in the UK. So you wonder, why are we worried about water scarcity? But the reality is that we have a growing population, we have aging infrastructure, so there's quite high levels of leakage on pipes, supply pipes. There's not been a new reservoir built since privatisation in the early 90s. Although I'm pleased to say that on the day that we're recording this, Anna, there's been some announcements around infrastructure investment, which is great news. But there's pressure on that water infrastructure, and the Environment Agency are saying that by 2050, routine water shortages are going to be par for the course here in the UK if we don't do something. Yeah. Already in 2025, there are parts of the country like Cambridgeshire and Sussex where new development is being prevented because there simply aren't the water resources in those areas. So it's really important we do something about domestic water use.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the sort of things that people can do? I didn't realise that 60% of our water was used in the bathroom, and obviously that's for hygiene reasons. So what are things that people can do?
Yeah, just shaving a minute off of your shower will save quite a lot of water across the year. Make sure that you know which button's which on your dual flush toilet, assuming you have a dual flush toilet. If you don't have a dual flush toilet, then perhaps think about getting one of those solutions. One of the common areas of water loss within the home is a leaky loo. So if you Google, Waterwise have done a great campaign on this recently. BMA did a campaign called Get Lavvy Savvy, which was all about spotting leaks in your toilet and doing the easy fixes to stop those leaks from continuing. So there are two things. There's the age-old one of turning the tap off when you brush your teeth. So a lot of it's around behaviours, but there's some great products that you can get installed in your home too, like flow-restricted taps that restrict the flow but still give you the water that you need to carry out your ablutions. There's very easy solutions available out there.
And just before we come on to some of those innovative solutions, you mentioned about your Get Lavvy Savvy campaign. And most people think, well, my toilet's not leaking because I'm not getting wet on my bathroom floor. There's no water anywhere. But the leak's actually inside the toilet, isn't it?
Yeah, so years and years ago, you used to have an overflow pipe that came out of your toilet and typically was over the door, so that there was a nuisance factor of the drip. About 20 years ago, that changed. So internal overflows became commonplace. So the toilet, if there is a leak, just overflows into the pan. Also, drop valves would leak directly into the pan as well. Um, so yeah, the way to spot a leaky loo is to just take a bit of toilet paper, dry off the back of the pan, then put another piece of dry toilet paper at the back of the pan. Go away, have a cuppa, and if you come back and that piece of paper's either disappeared or is all soggy, then you know that you've got a water leak.
Okay, and that would getting that fixed will save quite a lot of water, a- as well as doing behavior modification things as well.
Yeah, I mean, between up to 400 liters per day, which is the equivalent of two baths, is typical for a leaky loo. So yeah, a big saving. And if you're on a water meter, that can really add up to quite a financial saving across the course of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people are still unaware of how much water the daily bathroom habits use. Um, are there ways that they can, you mentioned technology earlier. Are there ways that people can learn about this?
Well, yeah, there's some great solutions on the market now around shower monitoring, sensors that tell you how long your shower's been running, what the literage is. These are really at the high end. But users perceive that there's been some consumer research done recently, which most consumers think they use about 20 liters of water per day. In reality, the national average is 140,
Yeah,
just over 140 liters per person per day. If we're going to avoid running out of water by 2050, we have to lower that to 120. We need to take at least 20 to 30 liters off of our daily water use. So the
per
only
person per day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, those really high water users, if they've got a leaky loo or they've got some strange behaviors like showering for 2 hours a day, obviously skew upwards our average water use. But there's something for us all to do to reduce our domestic water consumption and to contribute here.
Yeah, absolutely. And is monitoring, I guess as well, people can monitor if they're on a meter, people can monitor their not energy bills, their water bills. Because sometimes you might have, and this would cause additional problems, not just water wastage, but there could be potential internal leaks, it's like cracks in pipes, things like that, that you think, well, so it's important, I think, for people to understand what their usual water usage is so they can start seeing any deviations from that and also start to see if they can start shaving some off.
Yeah, that's really important. And in areas where there's been a smart meter rollout, there's actually much more capability for the water company to notify you if you've got a continuous flow. So, it's quite commonplace in parts of London and the southeast that you might get a letter through to say that you've got a leaky loo, or that they think that you've got a leaky loo because their smart meter is pinging a message back to HQ to say there's a
Yeah,
continuous flow. With Ofwat have rounds where they say what investment needs to take place, and smart meter rollout in other areas of the country, and indeed universal meter rollout in further different parts of the country is something which they are looking at this new investment round. So this is going to become more commonplace. But yeah, if the more familiar you are with your personal water use,
yeah,
easier it is for you to manage it. Make sure that you haven't got a continuous flow, but also change your behaviours, modify your behaviours to lower that water use.
yeah, yeah. Indeed, and I've literally just bought a shower timer because my son, who plays rugby, is spending way too long in the shower after he's been to rugby. I think he's just soaking in there. So he's now got a timer on, and that's made a big
What happened
difference.
to the shared baths in the rugby club afterwards? Does this not
Oh well,
happen?
in fact, I don't know if he's too old or not old enough for those. Those I'm not sure. But he comes home completely muddled up and then dives in the shower. But you mentioned earlier about water scarcity. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that because it can be really challenging um, for people to comprehend, especially when you've always had free and available access to water. And, we're all used to, running through sprinklers in our childhood and those sorts of things. It's not something that's in our cultural DNA. So why is it becoming much more of a pressing issue?
Yeah, well, climate change is making weather patterns more extreme, so that's making water harder to manage. It's not that we're getting less of it, but we're getting lots and lots at peak times, and then not enough in other times, parts of the year. So water is becoming harder for the water industry to manage, and that's kind of compounding some of the issues that I mentioned before around infrastructure weaknesses. So
Mm,
that's why this is an issue. But this isn't just a UK thing. This is a global issue. So the BMA hosted a summit of global bathroom industry figures back in October and November 2024, which resulted in a Windsor Declaration saying that this is a global issue. There's water scarcity in parts of the USA, in Southern Europe, in the UK, Australia, Africa. There's water shortages around the world, and our industry can really do something about it. So the Windsor Declaration set out a few of those things.
yeah. Great. And I think it was interesting there that you mentioned that you made that distinction that because it's so unpredictable, it does become difficult to manage. And also because um, of the way that buildings have happened and mass tarmac areas and things like that, it does become much more challenging for our existing infrastructure to manage flash flooding or to end up with flash flooding because of runoff from streets and driveways and things like that. So it does become much more challenging, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but equally that provides us as homeowners with some opportunities to help. So just things like installing water butts on your property to help with your garden irrigation rather than drawing water from the mains is gonna, and that's a double whammy. It helps with drainage in your
Mhm.
area because you're taking off some of that water to be stored for outdoor use. But also you're saving water from your mains, and therefore, if you're a metered customer, from your bill. So it's a win-win. So relatively simple stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
I think we're planning to come on to the building regulations later, Anna. But
Yeah.
the building regulations are getting tighter and tighter in this area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as well, there's as we know, we do have, although it's been a wet 18 months, we are seeing hotter temperatures for longer periods in our summers now. And I guess that water is needed for other things, so for food production and things like that. So it's not just needed to come out of your tap to give you a hot shower after the rugby.
Well, that's it. It's water is life. Is
Yeah.
a common used phrase. We can't survive without water, but neither can the food that we rely on.
Yeah.
You can't grow vegetables and cereals or rear animals for food
Hmm.
without a good supply of water. And increasingly, something that we're becoming very, very aware of is just how water intensive data centers are. So
Oh,
these are
wow.
the facilities that are kind of used for the fourth industrial revolution of AI,
Yes.
and kind of taking businesses to the next level depend on water for cooling these huge data centers. So that's something that we're very conscious of, and the places in the UK that are most attractive for the construction of data centers also happen to be the most water stressed. So this is something that we're really attuned to.
Okay, fantastic. Now, you did mention that there's been some policy announcements today. So, what are some of the policies and initiatives that government are looking at to tackle this issue?
Yeah, so on the investment side, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves is talking about the construction of 8 new reservoirs, which is a real step forward. This is all part of the drive for growth of the government. They want to build 1.5 million new homes
Mm.
um, in this Parliament, which is, I think it's fair to say, rather ambitious target, but
Ambitious.
they're putting together some policies to try and get there. That's always going to be a challenge without doing something about water, because in places like Cambridgeshire, which I've mentioned, and Sussex, and other areas for big growth, they do tend to be water scarce areas. So that we need to look at things like water neutrality, which means retrofitting to the point of NHIC, improving homes to reduce the water demand in existing homes to free up the the water capacity for new homes.
Yeah.
So that will flow from the recommendations and the policy announcements from the Chancellor today.
Fantastic. It's great to see that there's some big thinking happening. And it just goes to show that the collaboration is really needed between industry, government, and communities, because it affects every home, every individual in a home. These types of decisions matter. And it's interesting as well, I think, that one might think, well, why is home improvement industry, we have to talk to the water companies, to the utilities, and connect that into new housing strategies, and that does obviously then impact agricultural strategies as well. So these are some really big challenges that governments have to face, and it's important that they do bring all representative bodies together so that people can understand their role and what their bit of the challenge, what their opportunity to affect positive outcome is.
Yeah, that's right. And this is all a very heavily regulated area as well. And there needs to be some changes in regulation, which is never easy. So we all have to work together and make sure that the changes that come forward are, work for consumers. Because let's take showering, for example. People, if we regulate super low flow showers that don't give a satisfying experience to consumers, the chances are they'll either stay in the shower for longer, or they'll rip it out and put in a guzzling shower. Uh,
Yeah.
so the regulations have to work for consumers. They have to deliver the environmental benefits, which both the government and the water industry are seeking. And ultimately, it's the trade that has to install the showers, and the manufacturers that have to supply them. So things have to work and
Yeah.
adhere with the commercial realities that those two stakeholders have.
Absolutely. And you've brought us really nicely onto the work of your members, of manufacturers of bathroom products. And what are some of the water efficient products that homeowners, householders should consider?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier about dual flush toilets, but also there's some really good, cool innovations coming forward in WCs. So examples would be push button siphons. Traditionally, a siphon, which is a leak-proof flushing mechanism. Traditionally, siphons required a crank handle, which is kind of out of step with what consumers wanted. There's a few push button versions coming on stream now and coming out into the marketplace. That's really encouraging. There's showers that create an experience of a much higher water using shower, but with less water. And there's various different ways that can be achieved, through the sorts of aeration on the shower head, through to kind of forced air to make little bubbles, to deliver a great experience.
So it feels more like a power shower, but it's actually the sort of
Yeah,
forced
it feels
air.
a
Yeah, great.
luxurious experience. There's grey water reuse. So basically, taking off your bath water to be used in, for example, garden irrigation,
Yeah.
is something that can be considered now. There's very, very simple things like flow restrictors and aerators in your taps can deliver you enough water for you to be able to brush your teeth and wash your face without pouring lots of unnecessary water right down the drain. And
Yeah.
that's probably the simplest and the quickest thing that you can do.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is around this behavior modification, isn't it, as well? Do it less. And I know you're specifically focused around bathrooms, but but think smart irrigation systems for in the garden. You can get super high tech things that you can work on your phone, that you don't water when you need to, and you water when you do, and you do it at the right time of day, and those sorts of things. So I do think that there's lots of ways tech can support. And then there's also lots of ways, quite low tech solutions. I know we say it, but I think, it's worth keep saying, switch the tap off when you're brushing your teeth, switch the tap off possibly when your 20 seconds of washing your hands post COVID, or was it 30 seconds? Gosh, to make sure that you're germ free. And being conscious that water is a precious resource.
Yeah, that's right. But behavior change is a big part of this. But it's on manufacturers to come up with solutions that don't require behavior change, that
Okay.
deliver the great experience that consumers demand
Mm.
whilst using less water. And that's easier said than done, but it's a mission that all manufacturers are on.
Yeah. Good. And keep helping them with that as the Bathroom Manufacturers Association. So you did mention regulatory framework, and for those of listeners who listen regularly, know we do regularly talk about building regulations, and the building regulation in particular that's connected to water is Part G. How does that come into play here?
So in the current Part G, there's two ways that for water use, a construction has to comply. So either there's a calculation where you put in all the different fittings that exist within the building, and it comes up with a notional calculation of how much water the building is going to use per person per day. And the current limit at the moment is 120 litres per person per day. The other route to comply is what we call a fittings only based approach, which rather than doing a calculation, it just says the maximum flow for a shower should be X, the maximum flow for a tap should be Y, the maximum flush volume for a toilet will be Z. So that's the other and arguably more straightforward way for a building to comply. All of this is in the Doorstep Digest, by the way. So a quick plug for that. Where things are heading is a review of Part G, which will bring that calculation threshold of 120 litres per person per day down quite significantly, we think. And a possible modification would be actually removal of calculation altogether and just using the fittings only based approach. But that's a watch this space thing.
Okay. So I guess the best advice that we can give to listeners is, whether you're a tradesperson that works in this area, is to make sure that you understand the regulation changes, you understand the regulation and the changes that are coming down the line. But for homeowners and residents, is that because a lot of people do get bathroom work done, it is something that is quite regular for people. It's not the same as, you know, insulation or possibly glazing products that might be a bit more stretched out. People do change their bathrooms quite regularly. Is And I think also people might think that they can do it themselves slightly. But I think it is important to stress the importance of working with a competent professional who understands these regulations and understands what type of appliances are available, what types of innovations and I mean, I know I've seen some of the showers and things that your members produce, and they really are fantastic, out of this world in some ways. And it's really important that you work with experienced plumbers and contractors that can plug you into this kind of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, it's really commonplace that when the bathroom isn't working quite as you as a purchaser expect, it's because the installation hasn't been quite right. Not always, but that is quite commonplace. There's a few places where you can look to kind of check the competency of a bathroom installer. So CIPHE has
Yeah.
a register of plumbers. There's also a scheme called WaterSafe, which is worth checking out. And then not all bathrooms are fitted by plumbers, as counterintuitive as that sounds. There's also kind of a group of people called bathroom installers, because anyone can actually legally go in and install a bathroom. If you want to find a credible bathroom installation company, check out the British Institute for Kitchen and Bathroom and Bedroom Installation, BICB for short, and check that the company is registered with BICB. So CIPHE, WaterSafe, BICB. These are the places to look.
Great stuff. And we did we had another podcast episode on supporting another one of our doorstep digests, which was about drainage, and that was talking about the implications that around building control notification or competent persons if toilets are moved, if anything with drainage is moved, which obviously does impact sometimes if people decide to change around the orientation of their bathroom if they're having it redone. And that's why working with competent professionals is really important, because they will understand that and be able to provide you the right advice on things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, whilst anyone can buy a van and nip down to Screwfix to buy a bathroom suite, that doesn't mean that they're competent to deliver the goods in terms of the finished bathroom. So, water is often regarded as easy. It's not. It's one of the most hard things in any home improvement, because there's all sorts of factors involved. So I'd always urge using a competent tradesperson.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I just want to circle back on, you're obviously Chief Executive of the Bathroom Manufacturers Association. Tell us a bit about that, because bathroom manufacturing is a huge employer in the UK, and your members are doing amazing work, providing jobs into communities, and also doing huge amounts of sustainability work and reducing their own carbon impact as organisations, and supporting their teams to do that as well. So I do think I want to give you the opportunity to really sing the praises of your members, and to reinforce with listeners that it's important to buy British and to understand that they have choices that can make really positive impacts in communities.
Yeah, so bathroom manufacturers employ between 8 and 10,000 people here in the UK directly. It's a really global supply chain, actually. So, there are some companies that are still manufacturing products here in the UK. They tend to be the heavier type products like shower trays, enclosures. There's a little bit of sanitary ware still produced here, but many of the biggest brands have a global supply chain stretching across Europe to the Far East. That not all imported product is bad product. I really have to emphasize that. The products always have to comply with regulations. So if it's a water delivery product, like a WC or a tap or a shower, it should have some form of certification to say that it complies with the regulation 4 of the water fittings regulations. So the key certifications to look out for, and you haven't got to have all of these or one of them in particular, but any of these 4 are RAS approval, NSF Reg 4, Kiwa UK Reg 4, or there is the regulation 4 kite mark from BSI. Any 4 of those, that you've got a good product. The other piece of regulation you need to comply with is for sanitary ware, shower trays and enclosures, is the construction products regulations. So they should be either CE marked or UKCA marked, but that's not all. As well as having the mark, the manufacturer or the supplier should be able to give you a declaration of performance which says the testing that justifies them applying that mark. If they can't do that, ask some serious questions, because they should be able to provide that without any question. So that's what a credible, good manufacturer does to make sure their products comply. Loads of testing, and they can provide the documentation to support it.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for sharing these insights and sharing your expertise with us today. And we hope that this episode inspires listeners to consider the water efficiency of their home. And if you are a tradesperson, that it helps you consider the water efficiency for your clients and how you can help them make smart choices about the appliances that they have in their home and the water efficiency. Remember, you can explore this topic further by reading the NHIC's Doorstep Digest on water efficiency. It is packed with valuable information that will inspire you to save water while still achieving a great user experience. So for more information and resources, please visit the Bathroom Manufacturers Association website and also the NHIC website. So thanks for tuning in, and let's all do our part to conserve water for a sustainable future.